Finally, we're live. Okay, from the channel that brought you Bayloric TV boxing channel. We're back to the original home, Bayloric Worldwide Television. We're back at our original home. And why not? Lomachenko versus Walters. Just waiting for our man Bo to make his debut on Bayloric TV. KBS says, Ingram, you're big in Addy game, my dude. You hear me, Asa? Funny, very, very funny. Start the show, big man. Okay, was it a long night? Well, it wasn't a long night. It was actually a short night for me. While Nicholas Walters was being bamboozled by the matrix and the boxing ability and the accurate punching of our friend Vasyl Lomachenko, I was fast asleep. Good call, actually, to actually fall asleep. I didn't mean to. I stayed up the night to watch the boxing, and I'm kind of glad I did fall asleep. And I'm kind of glad I watched just the replay. It was like action replay. Every round, Nicholas Waltz coming forward, Lomachenko making him miss, making him pay, punishing him, making him look stupid, round after round after round, until it just seems like he just went back to the corner and just said he quit. He didn't want no more. Nice, isn't it? You just, just sit on the corner and say, yeah, that's it, no more, had enough. But then, to be honest, I've said this before on the other channel, and I'll say it again on this channel. Coming into the fight, we knew that Lomachenko was going to be a handful anyway. We knew Lomachenko had great footwork, great hand speed, good double Olympic gold medalist. So, you don't just pick him up in his shop. So he had a lot of quality about him, Lomachenko. Coming to fight, Walters unbeaten, hadn't fought for over a year, ring rust. And coming into the fight, I think most people admitted, well, I admitted, that for Nicholas Walters to even have a chance, he would need to have been active. He hadn't been active for a year. So even the best active Nicholas Walters against Lomachenko, and still wouldn't have beat Lomachenko. So the inactive Nicholas Walters, who could have taken a fight a year ago for more money, took the fight a year later for less money and quit on his stool. See, there are a few reasons as to why this happened. Reasons why I think this happened is because if you've gone through your career hitting people and knocking them over, you get into the habit of hitting guys and then falling over, them hurt. Problem is, when you get into a situation where you are, hello,
what's going on? Hey, what's
Mr.
happening,
Bo.
man? What's happening, man?
Welcome to Bayloric Worldwide Television. This is the channel where it originally all started. This is the channel where it was all born in 2009.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
this the channel you kicked off with in 2009.
This is the channel I kicked off in 2009.
Okay, man.
So for those people who are unaware of who this gentleman is in the room, I welcome Bo Bland. He has his own channel, Truth and Facts Boxing. Bo, please introduce yourself to people in the room and people who watch this video afterwards.
Hey, everybody, how you doing? This is Bo from Truth and Facts. Me and my co-host Bernard, we're over here from Chicago to Midwest. We host the show. We also do another show with a couple guys, Twan Lebedy from Hoop Jab. He's a writer for Hoop Jab. He actually covered the Lomachenko Walters fight. The 2K, the guy from the Gods of Boxing, Jasper from Colossal Boxing Talk, and we have a podcast called The Movement, where we interview fighters and we talk about a lot of topics in the sport of boxing. And it all started for me with the Gods of Boxing, but it really, really, really started going for me when I met this man right here, Mr. Ingram Jones, who's been around for a very while in interviewing some of the top who's who in boxing. So I'm 2 interviews up on Ingram because I interviewed 2 people that he likes, which is Andre Durrell and Ricky Wright, man. Yes, I'm finally on top. I finally got him.
Steaming. But good. I'm glad. I'm really, you know, I'm all for people that are trying to do the best that they can and move the sport forward. And you are a refreshing breath of fresh air into the world of boxing. And this channel is not just about boxing. You know, Baylor at Worldwide Television, you know, is news, entertainment, sports, the lot. And I'm sure Mr. Bow will see at some point the channel, the things that we've covered, the interviews that we've done, and the features we've had. A couple of life-saving interviews on this as well.
Yeah.
How to deal with diabetes, cancer, and
I actually saw your piece when you was in, I think it was Dublin. Yeah, I saw the community service work you was doing over there. See, people don't realize, they think when we introduce each other on the show that we just connect. Me and Ingram go way back, and people don't realize that we go back. You know, I know his wife, and he knows my family and everything. You know, yeah, I like what you did with the community service piece that you did in Dublin. That was, man, that was spectacular.
Thank you, I appreciate that. So Lomachenko Walters, I'm trying to give reasons as to why Walters had a mental breakdown in that corner, apart from the fact that he was inactive, apart from the fact that systematically beat down, apart from the fact that the guy was clearly much a better boxer, better boxing skill, apart from the fact that he was ring rusty, apart from the fact that basically he couldn't land the punches he wanted to land. And when he couldn't land the punches he wanted to land, having landed punches on every other opponent he fought in his career, it was like, oh shit, I can't land on this guy. This guy's whacking me left, right, and center. I thought I was going to walk in there and take this man apart and land my big bombs in a fight at Genova, and it didn't happen. In fact, I'm getting lashed left, right, and center, and all I'm thinking about is palm trees and coconuts and the beach and being in Jamaica, chilling out in my yard and with my friends, rather than be here taking some licks from some man who don't even speak English. It's clapping me left, right, and center. What the hell am I doing here? I should have stayed where I was. And I could have got paid more money for this last year. Why didn't I take the fight? All those things for Nicholas Walters. But basically, he got an ass whooping. That's what it was, plain and simple. And he would have got an ass whooping even if he had fought a year ago. The ass whooping probably wouldn't have been as bad because he would have been a little bit more active. But he still would have got an ass whooping, as far as I'm concerned. What are your thoughts, Bo?
I agree with you. He still would have got an ass whooping. No, he still would have got an ass whooping. Look, I picked Lomachenko to win this fight, and I said when the fight was announced, I said Nicholas Walters was inactive, and when you're fighting the guy of Lomachenko's skill set, you cannot go into a fight of that magnitude with a person like that and have not had a fight, you know, or been active to keep your skills level set sharp. If you watch the fight, Nicholas Walters stayed on the center line. He never gave Lomachenko any angles. He allowed Lomachenko to keep his foot outside of his foot because it's a lefty versus righty. So Lomachenko always maintained dominant position. The 2 times Walters had success when he went to the body, and I think he threw another right hand, his foot was outside of Lomachenko's foot. But outside of that, Lomachenko dictated positioning. He conquered the positioning. He gave him angles. He was spinning him. And when I heard Nicholas Walters, first of all, when I saw what the purse was, I mean, you talked about this. When I saw what the purse was, and I said this, we talked about it yesterday, I had a feeling then Walters is not happy because he, like you said, he only got $300K for that fight. Last year, I think they offered him $350, then $4, then $5, and he turned it down. So he only got offered $300K for this fight. He hadn't fought in a year. So looking at the purse, then looking at what he said about being inactive, he just took it just to take the money. you know, so he could fight and, you know, and be active, because, you know, when you're not fighting, you're not making no money. So he took this to fight. But to those that say Lomachenko made him quit, let me explain something. No other fighter makes you quit. You quit because you want to quit. Okay? So it didn't help that Lomachenko elusiveness, his speed, his countering. I mean, all the things that he was doing. I mean, there was even a point where he was playing with Nicholas. He put his hands down and chased him to the corner, you know, and did a little head shake. But if you've been paying attention to this channel, you know I always say one thing. What does I always say, Baylor? The mental makeup of a fighter. Nicholas Walters went into this fight not mentally prepared for this fight. Boxing is 90% mental, 10% physical. Mike Tyson said that, and Nicholas Walters mentally was not there.
Now this is a study, and I will follow up as a coach on this as well. Now, 10% being mental, that is at the higher echelons of the sport. High echelons, the elite people, top, the mental aspect is 10%, of course. But at lower levels, if your skill level ain't there, then, you know, no matter how mentally strong you are, you know, if you haven't got the skill set, forget it. So, you know, but at this level, as we're talking about the elite level, Nicholas Walters wasn't even at 10%. The 10% wasn't even there. And I don't think the 10% would have been there even if he, you know, there's some people who are mentally weak. Do you know them sort of people that are mentally weak?
Right.
And it just seemed to me when Nicholas Walters met Lomachenko for the first time, he went over there and shook the guy's hand, he hugged him and greeted him like his long lost brother. I mean, I just thought to myself, what the hell are you doing? Hi, Lomachenko. I mean, what the hell are you doing? This guy's going to come to take your head off. You're shaking his hand like you and him are buddies, like you know each other. And then after the fight, he was hugging him and wanted to kiss the man like it was for Santa Claus or something. I'm like, what the hell is that all about? The man's going to come to give a whooping on your ass. Maybe he knew his ass was going to get whooped, and he's like, you know what? Don't whoop me too much. Don't beat me up too much. Just don't. Because it was, to me, where was that mental edge? Where's that hunger? Where's that desire? That, you know what? You know, I'm the man. I'm the man, and you're going to have to prove to me you're the man. You know what I mean? Where was all that?
You know, I listen. I don't, you know, I don't know, but what I don't want is like what happened last week. I don't want whatever Walters did to take away from the victory that
Lomachenko would have whipped his ass, like I said. Either way, it don't make a difference. But there are certain things he could have done to at least try to you know, to at least try something, try intimidate the man. To do something.
You listen, I've seen fights, and as a fighter, I remember being in the amateurs. I would be in the locker room, and you know, back then everybody was in the same area. You know, you just the amateurs, ain't no separating. You know, everybody's in the same area. You remember this, Baylor? Everybody, and you're literally in the back with the guy that you're going to fight. You know, you're literally in the back with the guy you're going to fight, and I can tell you when you're back there in the locker room, we don't talk to each other. We don't say nothing. You know, we don't say, yeah, we're just sitting there waiting for our names to be called or talking to the coaches, waiting for our name number to be called so we can go in there and fight. It's after the fight, we'll probably talk and congratulate each other, show good sportsmanship after the fight. But, you know, before a fight, I like you said, even if you look at Andre Ward and Kovalev, Floyd and Manny Pacquiao, in big fights, big fighters don't behave the way Nicholas Walters, like you said, he was hugging this dude like he was his long lost brother and everything. Like, I mean, it's one thing to say, listen, you know, he's not my enemy, but he's not my friend. But I mean, he, you know what I'm saying? I mean, the way he acted.
He greeted him like he greeted him like if Lomachenko was actually giving him a paycheck there and then.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, thank you for the paycheck.
Right.
Thank you for the paycheck.
Right.
Thank you. That sort of
right.
It was, and you know what? It was quite funny. I just read a tweet from Spencer Ferron, and he said, "I'm a proud Jamaican, but that was a disgrace."
Yes. I actually Man, oh wow, he was soon as the fight was over with, he was hot on social media talking about what Walter's done, and I saw his tweet. He was answering questions, and you know, Spence. In case people don't know, you know, Spencer is one of those dudes. He's a proud man. You know what I'm saying? You know, even if you know, I mean, if you come at him when he makes like the prediction with Andre Ward and Kovalev, and he was telling people who he had, and people was telling him, you know, that other guys had Kovalev. He's like, okay, that's them. That ain't got nothing to do with me. You know what I'm saying? He's that kind of guy.
Yeah.
So, you know, man, I was reading his tweets like, yeah, yeah, I understand how he felt because.
Well, there are a few things there. But you see, I can't say everyone in the Caribbean has got that lackadaisical thing, and that's a tarnish, and that's not right. But I will tell you that more laid back sort of approach. But you couldn't say that about some Jamaican fighters such as the great Mike McCallum.
Yeah.
What's his name? The light heavyweight, Glenn Johnson. They're two fighters already.
Glenn Johnson, yeah.
Two world-class, world-level fighters that you could never question their heart or their guts.
Brian Stavern.
Pardon?
Stavern.
There's another one. Haiti. Let's go on. Let's move on to Donovan Razor Reddick. Who could question
Donovan Razor Reddick? Yeah.
What, 24 rounds of Mike Tyson? Who could question his heart?
Right.
And some of the other fighters that have come out of the Caribbean and have done themselves proud. How the hell is Nicholas Walters going to get on that plane, go back to Jamaica, and look at men like that? And look at people like Usain Bolt. Look at people like, you know, Glencoff Johnson and Mike McCallum. Legends within Jamaica. Legends within the Caribbean. How are you going to stand up opposed next to them?
Legends within legends within their respective sports. You
How
know?
can you?
Yeah. You know, the only thing it's one of those things where, and Max Kellerman touched upon it, elite level guys don't, even if it's not going their way, they go out on their shield. They don't quit. And you know what's crazy was, just before the stoppage, I tweeted, this may not go 12. And 3 seconds later, they're waving the fight off. I'm like, you gotta be kidding. Because he hurt Nicholas Walters in I think it was the 7th round. He hurt him at the end of that 7th round. He hurt him. And I saw it. I saw, man, Nicholas Walters is hurt. And I tweeted, this might not go 12. And all of a sudden they waved the fight off. But even though he hurt him, it wasn't nothing to where I thought it was enough for the man to say, I quit. You know, I'm like, well, he didn't hurt you like to the point to where you had to quit. Like, I mean, look.
What was his fitness like?
He looked like he was fit and in shape. You know, I can't really say, yeah, he looked like he was fit and in shape. It was just a matter of up here, man. He went into this fight, and he just mentally, he was not there. And the fact that soon as the fight was over, and I do not like fighters that have excuses for why they lost the fight. Now, it's one thing to be a sore loser or think you won a fight, but to have an excuse after you lose a fight, that really bothers me. But for Nicholas Walters, as soon as the fight was over, he's blaming HBO, saying, you guys, you know, don't have me active. What was so different about fight night that you didn't already know leading up to fight night? Like, you knew you was out for a year. You know what I'm saying? Why didn't you negotiate for more money before you took, like, man, it really bothers me how this turned out, because I never would have expected Nicholas Walters to just quit like that. I just never would have expected that.
But when you're mentally not fit and prepared for elite boxing, which is what that was elite boxing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't get any better than Lomachenko, do you? Let's be honest.
Yeah, you do. Where you going? I'm
Well,
gonna
yeah,
say
we get Rigo.
I'm gonna say that to make everybody. Twitter's probably going. They probably going crazy at me right now. I'm gonna say that to make
Well,
everybody.
yeah, well, Rigondeaux versus Lomachenko. People talking about a fight. Can it happen?
No, no. Lomachenko is too big right now. He's what? He's in the 130-pound division. Rigo can actually make 118 pounds.
Oh,
So,
man.
but I tell you what, there's an interesting fight that's been floating around on Facebook, and that's Lomachenko and maybe even Mikey Garcia. I think that would be an interesting fight because when you look at it, between 130 and 135, you'd actually have to look toward 140 to actually find someone who could challenge Lomachenko. So between 130 and 135, the only person I can think of that may give Lomachenko somewhat of a go is Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia.
You mean not Terry Flanagan? Terry Turbo Flanagan?
Did you watch a Flanagan fight the other day?
I didn't watch him, sorry.
Okay, I watched him fight Cruz, and no.
Well, how did the fight go, by the way?
Flanagan won. He won. It was a good fight. But just looking at his skill set level, it's not the same as Lomachenko's. It's just not the same as Lomachenko's.
Crawler? Can Crawler fight? Is Crawler in that division?
Yeah, but Crawler lost to Linares.
Linares?
Yeah, Linares.
What about
Crawler
Linares?
lost to Linares. Now that would be an interesting fight, Lomachenko and Jorge Linares. That would be an interesting fight. That would be an interesting fight right there.
Speed, power, movement.
Yeah, but now Linares has been dropped. He has been dropped. I think he might even been knocked out, but Linares has been dropped. Crawler, I think, was the first fight in a long time that he actually went the distance. Normally, Linares fights either end with somebody being knocked out or him being knocked out. So that was probably. I could be wrong, but I definitely know that his fights. He hasn't had too many fights that went the distance. 12.
In terms of Nicholas Walters, the last guy I saw was like that. Was Vitaly Klitschko. Vitaly came back in a tough fight against Lennox Lewis and gained his credibility. Went on to become a dominant force in the heavyweight division. Question is, can Nicholas Walters come back? It'd have to be in a gut. It'd have to be in a gut check fight. Come through a gut check, win against a good opponent to really establish himself.
Well, here's the thing: Vitaly quit because of his shoulder. Apparently,
that's what I'm saying.
Right, he hurt his shoulder. Nicholas Walters didn't have an injury. He just he checked out mentally. He checked out. Okay, so when you hurt yourself, and hey, this is the reason why I didn't go on because I hurt myself. Then you can go into another fight with a different frame of mind, especially if you're healthy, saying, okay, I can put on a good showing because I'm not hurt, I feel healthy. But when you mentally check out, think Victor Ortiz. When you mentally check out, it'll happen again. Once you mentally check out, that will always be in your mind.
To check out again.
I think it was Fernando Vargas that said his trainer once told him, once you quit, you'll always quit. So, he mentally checked out. He had his excuse ready going into this fight. I've been inactive. He had his excuse ready going into this fight. It's kind of like one of those things like the disgruntled employee that says, yeah, I'm gonna go to work just to get my paycheck, and then if you ask who wants to leave and go home early, yeah, okay, I'll go home early. That's kind of what I look at it as that he did, Because ask yourself this: was there anything about Nicholas Walters that made you think, watching that fight, was there anything about that fight that made you think it could not have went the entire 12 rounds?
Lomachenko and tacking him on the chin over and over and over again.
Yeah. Okay, but up until that point, because you only had what, 4 more rounds to go or 5 more rounds to go.
Yeah, but you
Right.
weren't taking them licks on your chin. You weren't getting hit with them punches.
No, wait, right, and you're absolutely right. I was not, but I can tell you this right here. There's nothing that I saw in that fight that made me think Walters could not have gone 12. Walters has been hit before. Okay, he got rocked. He claims he got hurt. He got rocked or whatever. You've been hurt. You can't tell me you've went your entire career, amateurs and pros, and have never been hurt. You know, when he fought Sosa, when he fought Donaire, you know, you can't tell me he hasn't gone his whole career, never been hurt. So if you got hurt and you stopped because you got hurt and you was inactive, no, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that, and I'm taking nothing away. Lomachenko won that fight, and he looked marvelous doing it.
Absolutely. So what was Nicholas Walters doing for last year?
I don't know.
Chilling.
Well, I'm on record. I think we did a podcast. Shout out to Adrian and my partner in crime, my co-pilot there, Bernard Mukes. I said then that I think that this was punishment for Nicholas Walters, because remember, he was going to leave Bob Arams. He was going to leave Top Rank. Okay. Mm-hmm. Then he re-signed with Top Rank. Then, of course, he was supposed to have fought Lomachenko. Was it earlier this year, or it was last year, right?
Last year.
Okay, last year. Then he kept upping his price, right? So he didn't fight for a whole year. Now, he was not injured. He did not have promotional issues, right? And so what kept him from fighting for this long? There was no fights even mentioned for Nicholas Walters. I mean, after the Lomachenko fight, there was no fight even mentioned for Nicholas Walters. So, and again, this is just me speaking from my personal opinion. I personally think this was payback from Bob Arams to Nicholas Walters for not following the Top Rank code. And I personally think that. That's my personal opinion. I could be wrong.
What is the Top Rank code then? Do as I say, or what?
Pretty much. I mean, we've seen this from Top Rank before. So pretty much, because again, I can't. And again, this is my personal opinion. Before anybody say I have something against Top Rank, no, I do not. Go back and watch any videos, and I've praised the fighters and everything. But you can't tell me the guy was not injured. He had no promotional issues. So there's absolutely no reason in my mind to think why he set out this long.
Can you explain to me why he came in overweight for that fight?
Which one?
The one he came in overweight for, and he didn't fight, had the belt, and he had to try and lose weight on the night. And you know what I'm talking about, the fight that was? Yeah,
that's just bad preparation.
No, so does that not point to some sort of weak or lack of discipline?
Yes, it does. It's definitely. Yes, it does. It's definitely lack of discipline, because you know what the weight is going into this fight. You know what your weight's supposed to be, and I think he came in 2 pounds overweight. I believe he came in at 128. Was it?
Yeah.
So he came in 2 pounds overweight. So, yeah.
Point back. Was there something there within his mental setup and his preparations and his discipline back then, which would have pointed to what's going on now, what happened with him in this fight?
That's, you know what? You can actually draw that conclusion, because when you look at guys who normally come in overweight, they have shown those traits before. Yeah, when you look at guys who's come in overweight, they normally show those traits. Look at Chavez Jr. He's always missing weight. You know, Buster Douglas. Who?
Broner.
Broner. Look at Buster Douglas when he fought Evander Holyfield. You know, he came in not ready and right, and you know, so yeah, you definitely have a point that you can look at guys that come in overweight, and that can be a point to their, not just their professionalism and their preparation, but to their mental makeup as well.
Yeah, exactly. So Nicholas Walters, the future, has he lost a lot of fans last night?
I don't think he lost a lot of fans, but I think he definitely hurt his appeal, because the appeal for Nicholas Walters was the guy was a knockout artist. He was a hard puncher. He was always in exciting fights. So he may have lost some fans, some hardcore people would judge him. But, you know, the beautiful thing about boxing is all he has to do, like what Vitaly Klitschko did, is go out, get a tough opponent, get into a tough fight, and persevere from that and actually win. You know, and
would you make changes to his team, his
yes,
trainer?
yes. You have to, because his corner allowed him to do that. Okay, his corner allowed his corner man was saying it's over, and the ref wanted to specifically hear it from Nicholas Walters. You know what I'm saying? Because if you watch the replay, his corner was saying, "Oh, that's it," and the ref was trying to hear from Walters. Hey, I need you to tell me. Okay, think about this. Go back to the Andre Ward fight. Did you see Virgil Hunter telling Andre Ward after the second round being knocked down, "It's over, you're done"? You know, that's not what happened. And another sign, and I think again they pointed out on the show, another sign that there was something wrong with Walters was it was too many people in his corner talking to him at the same time. And anytime you have, like, look at Lomachenko's corner, who was talking. Go back to the fight last week. Only the lead trainers was talking. John David Jackson only spoke to Kovalev. Virgil Hunter only spoke to Andre Ward. Lomachenko's corner, his trainer only was talking to him. You had too many people was talking to Nicholas Walters during the fight. Even if it's not going your way, one person is supposed to be the only person talking to you. When you have too many people in your ear, you don't know what to do when that bell rings.
Absolutely. So that's not good either. As for Lomachenko,
oh, sky's the limit for Lomachenko. Sky's the limit. I mean, you have to consider putting him in the top 10, if not maybe even top 5 pound for pound with this victory. Because he looked at not just he beat Nicholas Walters, he looked excellent beating Nicholas Walters. Okay,
I just wish he had done that with Nicholas. I wish he'd beat Nicholas Walters when Nicholas Walters was active. That's the only thing I really do, because then that would have been just even more marks on top. So beating him, he was in his prime, he was active.
Yeah, but you know what though? My problem with that is this, and I say this all the time. And Ingram, you know me.
Yes.
When you sign that contract, I don't want to hear these excuses because
I know.
Right.
No, I'm not taking away from Lomachenko's victory.
Right.
It's a shame that he has beaten Nicholas Walters, and he could say, "Well, I was inactive for a year." For Lomachenko, when the man that he deserves the full credit for what's happened, you know. But it'll always be that sort of, well, he was out of shape. Oh, he wasn't, you know, he hadn't fought for a year. He was a bit inactive and ring rust, and there's all those sort of excuses that can come up. And I don't want to hear those excuses later on.
Right. No, I agree with you. You know what? Think about this too for a second. Think about the Andre Ward Kovalev fight, right?
Yeah.
How would Andre Ward have looked had he not had those 2 fights before he faced Kovalev? I'm just saying, to your point about being inactive. Do you think Andre?
I know. I'm wondering.
Do you think Andre Ward would have looked any different had he not had those 2 warm-up fights before he fought Kovalev?
He wouldn't have been as sharp, that's for sure.
Huh?
He wouldn't have been as sharp. And who knows, when Kovalev hit him with that right hand, he might not have got up.
Okay. And the reason why
that's sharpness, you know.
Well,
that's sharpness as well.
Well, but see, the reason why I ask that is you can look at the inactivity and say that that's a reason why he didn't look good. But you can't look at the inactivity and say that's the reason why mentally he checked out. Inactivity makes you rusty. Inactivity hurts your timing. You know, it's one thing when you're training, then there's another thing when you're in a training camp.
But hold on, let me throw this at you. What about the whole retirement sort of I don't have to fight anymore mentality. You got paid well, I don't have to fight again. And then find out, hold a second, bloody hell, I do need to fight again, run out of money.
If Nicholas Walters is thinking 300K was a big payday.
Wait, think about that in the Jamaica. I'm not thinking about that in the States now. Now think about that in Jamaica. Think about that in terms of having nothing and then getting 300K. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot. I agree. But
as a million, well, I don't know how much that is, but he'd probably be close to being a millionaire or multi-millionaire in Jamaica.
You know what? It's a lot. I'll agree. But when you are a young fighter, undefeated, been a champion, when you are a young fighter, undefeated, been a champion, you should not be thinking retirement. You should not be thinking, I got a big payday. I'm going.
And when I say retirement, don't misunderstand me. I don't mean retirement. I'm not going to fight again, but just totally check out. Like, you know what? I've got the money. I've got a nice house. I've got I've got girls. I've got kids. I've got this. I've got that. And in Jamaica, I mean, I've seen it I've just seen it in a different sport with cricket, where guys walk around the Caribbean. You know, they've got the car and they've got the house. They've got the big house, and they look like a superstar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yet when they look great on their island, but when they play international cricket and they then go and they play in like England or Australia, where everyone else could be a barrister or a lawyer or a solicitor, or and they're multi-millionaires, and their money, their dibby money, doesn't come anywhere near the Englishman or the Australian, or the South African. They look small in comparison, but when they get back on their island, they're like mini gods. So when they're coming from that mentality where I've got everything I want, I'm in Jamaica, I've got what I want, my boy is Usain Bolt and I'm this and I'm cool, my dudes, and when you've got that mentality, you can mentally check out. You say, well, boy, I've done what I got to do. I'm the axe man, he's cool, he's got that. And so there's no reason why he couldn't have checked out, because he's like, well, what the hell? I don't need to fight. I got enough money here. I go, shit, I do need to fight again. My finances ain't actually where it needs to be. Bills been paid, money's been spent. I need to come back and fight. and then finally, you do have to come back and fight. And who do you have to come back and fight? Lomachenko.
Well, no, that's exactly what happened, because he hadn't fought in a year. And I think before the Lomachenko fight, his payday is high. I think the last fight before Lomachenko was Sosa, right?
Yes.
Sosa. And it was a draw, which shouldn't have been a draw. I actually thought he won that fight. And his payday for that fight wasn't his highest. His highest purse was the one he just got with Lomachenko. So the money did run out. And in a big fight, I said it then, I'll say it now. I think we were told, I could be wrong, but we were told this was a 50-50 purse split. And now we find out that maybe that might not have been true, because Lomachenko made $1 million, he made 300K. So even if they would have gave Nicholas Walters 500K, Lomachenko would have made 800, and Walters would have made 500. So this fight, what, $1.3 million, what was that, 650K a piece? So a 50-50 split would have been something like that. Lomachenko did tweet that, hey, I'll give you 300K of my person. When I saw that tweet by Lomachenko, I was like, okay, well, there's no way this is a 50-50 split, because you're not going to give this guy 300K and you only walk away with 200. No, that's not going to work. But he ran, you don't fight for a year, like you said, you run out of money. And maybe, and again, this is me, maybe he knew the reason why I'm sitting out this long, not even getting phone calls about a fight, is because I upset the apple cart of the Top Rank narrative with Bob, because I wanted more money. I threatened to leave Top Rank. Then I re-signed. Then I wanted more money for the Lomachenko fight, and I caused the fight not to happen. So, maybe going into this fight, he knew that.
We've seen fighters sit out before because they're trying to run down their contract.
Well, he had just re-signed the contract. He had just re-signed the contract before all of this. I think he signed a new contract the earlier part of last year because there was rumors that he was going to be leaving Top Rank, but then he wound up re-signing with them.
Why did he resign?
He had the Sosa fight.
Why did he resign?
You know, I often ask myself that question. If you have,
why did Manny Pacquiao resign?
Well, Manny Pacquiao don't have the same issues financially, pay
Really?
or fight wise as Nicholas Walters or other.
True, but he's got the financial debt to Bob Arum, which is rumored, and all the money problems with the gambling and the women. So they say.
I don't know. I know he had a tax issue problem.
Well, there you go.
He had a tax issue problem, and I generally tell people when you owe, I think they say he owes something like $60 million or $50 million in back. I said when you owe that kind of money in back taxes, that's a hole that's really hard to get out of. I don't care how much money you get. Because I think he made $100 million fighting Floyd. Well, you got to pay $60 million of back taxes. Then you still got to pay the taxes on that $100 million you got, and the taxes on other money that you got up into the $100 million fight. And Manny Pacquiao, to his credit, is a very generous person. He builds homes. He spends millions of dollars trying to help his country, the Philippines.
So you think his accountant's a bit dodgy then?
Manny Pacquiao?
Yeah.
I think normally when fighters have issues like that, they put too much trust in the people around them, and they're not monitoring the situation personally themselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because look at Bernard Hopkins, look at Oscar De La Hoya, look at Floyd Mayweather, guys who are, everything comes through them before decision goes out. You know what I'm saying? Before a decision is made, it must come through me. Guys who are personally hands-on with every aspect of their careers. Larry Holmes, guys like that. You definitely see they don't have, those kind of issues because they are hands-on with every aspect of their career.
So, okay. You want to lead the next conversation? We've just done Nicholas Walters and Lomachenko. Good luck to both fighters.
What's the next convo you want to talk about?
Well, there is a fight I want to talk about. It's Derek Chisora and Dillian White.
I knew you was gonna go. Oh man! Oh man! Oh man!
Without going into too much detail, this fight could already be won.
You think so?
This fight could already be won. Whatever happened behind the scenes that we're not aware of, or that the public are not aware of, whichever one of the two fighters got shook, I mean genuinely shook, the other fighter has that advantage going into the fight.
I saw that situation that took place in that interview.
There's a lot more than that happened. A lot more.
Really? What else happened that I don't know about?
So they say a lot more things happened.
Okay. That interview was intense. That was nothing. That wasn't scripted. That wasn't scripted. These dudes really wanted to get each other.
So from what I understand, that was nothing.
Okay.
Have you noticed how Chisora and White are not tweeting much?
No, they're not. They're not. They're not tweeting. They're in the gym. Shout out to our girl Angela over there at Justice Boxing, because she's actually in the same training facility as Derek Chisora. Yeah, Don Charles Gym. And I should have asked her yesterday. I forgot. I forgot. I should have put her on the spot yesterday. Asked her who wins between those two. This is a pretty intense fight, man. This is look. This is one of them fights where I think these dudes, if they bumped into each other on the street, man, they might not make it to the ring. That's where this is. This is pretty intense. But Dylan White kind of remind me of a younger version of Derek Chisora. You know, he really
it's kind of like the mask. It's like the kind of Star Wars, or you know, Karate Kid, the mentor and the student.
Yeah, yeah. He kind of reminds this kind of reminds me of a younger version of Derek Chisora, but I don't know, man, because this is such, like, I can see this fight starting off. I don't think it's going to be a boxing match. I think the referee's going to have to calm both these guys down. It's definitely going to probably be some extremely rough stuff going on. I think Dylan White could. It's hard to say, man, because Derek Chisora isn't an easy guy to just run over, and Dylan White's his only loss is to Anthony Joshua. Chisora does have the experience, but I think youth and maybe boxing skills may be more on the side of Dylan White. You know, like,
but it all depends again. Like I said, which fighter was shook, which fighter was considerably shaken up
from that incident.
From that incident that we don't know about.
That's true. That's true.
Because if I physically off camera and everyone saw it was duffing you up, and it wasn't on camera, and you were running your mouth up in front of the camera, and everyone was thinking you were the man, and then you were getting duffed up in a corner, right after giving it the big one.
Right. Yeah.
Then you go back to training camp having been duffed up already, and then come the fight. Even when you look at when David Haye came up against Chisora, David Haye won the fight then, and then when they got in the ring, he finished the job off in the ring.
Yes, he did.
He'd already dropped Chisora once already.
Yes, he did.
So he just finished the job inside the ring. Has Dillian Whyte been duffed up by Derek Chisora? Has Derek Chisora duffed up Dillian Whyte? Who got the better of that exchange? And how does that psychologically affect each man?
It affects each man psychologically. But you know what? Think Lennox Lewis and Hasim Rodman when they had that dust up on ESPN.
Well,
remember
that? A dust up or just grabbing of trousers, grabbing of shirts? And
no, that was a dust up because Rodman took Lennox down to the ground. But think that, and Lennox still came out the victor because in the ring.
Lewis was a better fighter anyway.
He was a better fighter.
In the first fight. He was complacent in the first fight.
Right. In the ring, not only was Lewis a better fighter, but in the ring, you have to follow certain rules. Like when you a dust up outside the ring is totally different. Like, I'll tell anybody. I'll tell anybody, in that ring is where I'll probably kick your butt. Now, outside that ring where there's no rules and anything goes, yeah, I might get my butt whooped. But in that ring where you have to follow these rules and there's a person in there to make sure the rules are followed, oh hell yeah, I'll probably kick your butt. So in the ring is where it's gonna be a little different, to where whatever happened with the dust up outside the ring may not be a factor. I'm not saying it won't, because again, it depends on the mental makeup of the person. But if let's say Dylan White got the worst end of that dust up, but Dylan White knows going into the ring, hey, I'm just a better boxer, I'm a better fighter, and what happened won't happen in that ring because there'll be someone in there to enforce the rules. Or if Derek Chisora felt that he got the worst end of the dust up, he could feel the same way. So in a situation like that, I get what you're saying, but in a situation like that, when it happens outside the ring, I don't put too much stock into it, because it's like, it's different when it's in the ring.
Depends how physical it was, though. How physical was it? How up close and intense was it? To be honest, Lewis and Rackman and Lewis and Tyson was a scuffle, and that was it. This situation rumored between Chisora and
Dylan White.
Yeah, was more than that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you could, yeah. I mean, you make a very good case. It's hard to argue it. You make a very good case because
if it's a serious matter that's happened between the two guys, if something serious has happened. I'm not talking about you being thrown over a table or you know, not that. I'm talking about if a situation is a case where it's been very physical, it's been a trauma on the brain, on the mind. That's what's the concern is there.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard, man. It's really hard not to, you know, put it like this. If I met a guy outside the ring and we got into an altercation and I know I gave him the business,
yeah,
and I see him in that ring, I'm even more hyped and ready because I'm like, oh, I'm finna run you.
Right.
So you're right. Like whoever feels that they got the better of that is going into the ring with extremely high mental advantage because they know I got the better of you and you know I got the better of you.
Okay, so let's have another fight, which hasn't spoken about that much actually. Joshua Molina.
Okay. Well, we definitely know. I think it was Spencer who told us that Showtime wanted Molina. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was Spencer that told us that it was Showtime that wanted Molina. I mean, I like Anthony Joshua in this fight. Listen, Molina is a game heavyweight. Molina has decent power, but Molina's skill set is not on the same level as Anthony Joshua. When Molina has stepped up in his level of competition, he's come in on the losing end of the stick. I think that this may be a fight to build towards a bigger fight next year, which could possibly be Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Because if Joshua gets him out of there in 2 or 3 rounds, then they'll say, hey, look, Joshua did in 2 or 3 rounds what took Wilder however many rounds to do. Molina hurt Wilder, but he couldn't touch Anthony Joshua. So this could be something to use to build up to a big fight, which could possibly be Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, provided Joshua gets past Vladimir Klitschko.
So it's a foregone conclusion. Joshua beats Molina.
Nothing is a foregone conclusion in boxing because it is boxing, but I'm 90% sure that Joshua beats Molina.
If Molina lands a kind of right hand or left hook that wobbled Wilder and rocked Areola and knocked out Adamek, should there be cause for concern?
You know, that's a good question because the only person I've ever seen rock AJ was Dylan White. That's the only guy I've ever seen rock AJ was Dylan White. I don't know for certain if Molina has Dylan White's kind of power, but then again, it's the heavyweight division. You don't if he hit Anthony Joshua in the right spot, which there's 3 places. I tell everybody that if you hit a guy, I don't care who you are, you'll hurt him. The temple, the earlobe right by the jawline, and the kidney liver shot. And if he hits Anthony Joshua on that temple or right there behind the ear, along the jawline, the earlobe, and Joshua going shaky legs, we're going to see a lot. But I think if Anthony Joshua can take that shot and survive it from Dylan White and come back, he should be able to do the same against Molina.
But Dylan White got injured when he threw that shot, so I understand he was injured going into the fight anyway. How big a punch is Dylan White, Molina?
Do you really believe Dylan White was injured going into that, injured after throwing that punch?
Yes, he was injured.
You do?
He was injured going into the fight. Yes, he was injured. I didn't want the fight to go ahead because I knew he was injured going into the fight.
Okay, so Dylan White was injured going into the fight.
And he had corrective surgery after the fight, and he was out for about 6 to 8 months.
Okay.
Straight after the fight.
Okay. Because most of the time we don't get a lot of news that you guys get over in the UK.
No, he was injured. I remember talking to Bashir about it. Said he wasn't ready for the fight.
Oh, okay. All right. You said, do I think Molina has Dillian White's kind of power?
I think Molina might be a bigger puncher than Dillian White.
You think so? Well,
levels. Who's he for?
Who, Dillian White or Molina?
Dillian White.
Well, that's true. That's true. And Adamic, I got to correct myself. I said every time he stepped up his level of competition, he hasn't done good. But he did. I forgot he fought Adamic. And Adamic was probably the most surprising. That shocked everybody when he knocked Adamic out. That shocked everybody. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, but from a skill set level, do you think he has the skill set to be able to land that punch like that on Joshua? Because Joshua right now, he has improved. He has improved drastically. He's improved.
Of course, I expect Joshua to win this fight, but it's how he wins the fight and in fashion. And how Molina says his best. He says the way to win the fight against Joshua is to have confidence, believe in yourself.
Well, you got to have confidence in any fight, but that's not the way to win the fight. A lot of fighters go into a fight with confidence and they still wind up losing.
Okay,
so
is he better than
more than confidence? You need a little bit.
Is he better than Brazil?
Say what now?
Is he better than Brazil?
Yes.
Okay, is he better than Charles Martin?
Yes.
Is he better than Dillian White?
I don't know.
Can Dillian White beat Wilder?
No.
Can Dillian White beat Areola?
You know what? Maybe. I can't lie. I think maybe he can beat Areola. Areola.
I'm talking about the Areola that fought Stavern. That Areola. The Areola just come off a win off of Seth Mitchell.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know.
All right. So then is he better than Molina? You're saying Dillian White, but is Molina better than Dillian White? It's all right to say, well, he only fought Dillian White, but is Molina better than Dillian White? Because if Molina's better than Dillian White, then Molina is the toughest opponent that Joshua's fought in his career.
Molina has more experience. Molina has more experience than Dillian White. Molina is he's bigger than Dillian White. And Molina has more experience, and he's been at that level before. So from an overall aspect, I guess if you look at it like that, yeah, you have to say Molina's better than Dillian White.
And Dillian White hasn't fought at the level that he's fought at yet.
No, he has not. I think the biggest fight for Dillian White was Anthony Joshua, to be honest with you.
The biggest fight now for Dillian White is Derek Chisora.
Yep, Derek Chisora. Yeah.
And if Derek Chisora beats Dillian White, then where does that put him?
Woo! If Derek Chisora beats Dillian White, that definitely knocks him down quite a few pegs. Especially if he knocks him out. Yeah, that definitely knocks him down quite a few pegs, man.
That's not good, is it?
No, because Dillian White's whole thing is to try to get back into the picture of fighting Anthony Joshua. So if he loses to Chisora, who, I mean, let's keep it real, Chisora is, he kind of that old lion, Chisora is not a young Chisora. I mean, Chisora, he's what, 35, 36? Mm-hmm. I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so this is the oldest Chisora who's been around and who's been in there with some big guys, and he himself has tasted defeat the hard way. So this isn't the top level Chisora he's fighting. So if he loses to this Chisora, this version of Chisora we're watching, that definitely knocks him down a few pegs.
Interesting. I'm going to end on this note. Gennady Golovkin is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world today.
You want me to hang up this call, don't you? You trying to get me to hang up this call, ain't you, man? You trying to get me?
Abel Sanchez on being interviewed immediately after immediately after Kovalev versus Ward. Who's the best pound for pound fighter in the world today? Gennady Golovkin, according to Abel Sanchez.
Well, according to Abel Sanchez, Golovkin can knock out Ward, Kovalev, and Stevenson. You know, according to Abel Sanchez. Abel Sanchez is a trainer, and Abel Sanchez is doing what trainers are supposed to do, which is keep his fighter relevant and promote his fighter. He's supposed to tell you all these great things about his fighter. I wouldn't expect nothing less from Abel Sanchez.
And 10%.
Huh?
And the 10% to come with it.
Right, and 110% to come with it. But to sit here and say that Gennady Golovkin, in my opinion, he's not a top 5 pound for pound guy.
Thank you. I did that on my video about a few hours ago. I did a video live here talking about Gennady Golovkin and compared 4 people's resumes. Canelo, better resume. Pacquiao, better resume. I think I picked 2 other guys as well who had better resumes.
Well, listen, you got Canelo, better resume. And remember, guys, we're talking resume, not win-loss records. We're talking resume. If we're talking win-loss records, the only person that Canelo ever lost to was Floyd Mayweather.
Exactly.
And losing to Floyd Mayweather, losing to someone like Floyd Mayweather, who is the best there is, that doesn't knock you down a peg. Floyd is light years. Floyd beats everybody. But Canelo, as my partner would say, Danny Swift cherry picker Garcia has a that's what he calls him, man. He calls him Swift cherry picker. He has a better resume than Gennady Golovkin, Roman Gonzalez, Andre Ward, Kovalev,
Kovalev,
Lomachenko, all right, Rigo. So there's a lot of guys. Timothy Bradley. There's a lot of guys who resumes you can look at, man. That's better than 3 Gs. Is to take nothing away from Gennady Golovkin, because listen, when it comes to Gennady Golovkin, people like to say that they like to regurgitate stuff.
Of course, without thinking about it.
Right. I know no one is trying to fight him. I know this. I'm not saying no one's trying to fight him. I'm not saying that, there are guys who are making it obvious they're not trying to fight him, okay? But you cannot tell me you are a top 5 pound for pound with no top level fighter on your resume.
And you're not even a man in your division. The man in the middleweight division is Canelo. And how does that work? Because Martinez was the man. He was ranked number 1, considered number 1 middleweight in the world, who got beat by Cotto, and Cotto got beat by Canelo. If you're going to go by the man to beat the man to beat the man, Canelo is that man. Who did Golovkin beat to be the man? Bo.
He beat
Martin. Let me know.
He beat Martin. He beat Martin Murray.
You're gonna put this, you already stop this calling you now.
Well, you look at ESPN's top 25 fighters over the last 10 years. Gennady Golovkin is 25, and it says biggest win, Martin Murray. So before anybody say, "Oh, I'm picking on Golovkin," no, this was ESPN that said this. His biggest win is Martin Murray.
Gennady Golovkin's best win is against Kell Brook.
Well, no. I'm saying, well, yeah, now his best win is against the welterweight Kell Brook. But
that's even worse.
But beating Kell Brook does not make you a top 5 pound for pound guy.
It doesn't even make you a number 1 pound for pound guy.
Yeah, because again, you're talking about a guy that came 2 weight divisions up to fight you. Who did Kell? Can Kell Brooks beat a Billy Joe Saunders? Can Kell Brooks beat a Daniel Jacobs? Can Kell Brooks beat an Andy Lee? I mean, can you honestly tell me these are guys that Kell Brooks can beat in the 150, 160 pound division?
Well, I've made this point before. People said to me that Kell Brook could beat Chris Eubank Jr.
Okay, place your money out there like that if you want to. I like to see that. You know, same thing. Listen, I said the same thing when Canelo fought Amir Khan. You know, name me somebody in a 160-pound division or 154-pound division that Amir Khan can beat. I'm talking about of the top guys. You know, name me somebody that Amir Khan could beat. And I'll say the same thing with Kell Brooks. Name me any of the top guys. Lauder, Charlo, J-Rock, Andrade. Name me Monterosian. Name me any of the top dudes at 154 or 160 that Kell Brooks can beat.
Let's do something. Let's just pretend that we've got seeds in the ground. The seeds in the ground are the junior middleweights.
Okay.
And let's pretend that the top three is Gennady Golovkin.
Right.
And let's pretend that everybody around him decides that he's beaten, decides to move up to the super middleweight division. And Gennady just stays there, and I'm just going to put some water on my light middleweight division, and they're all going to grow into fully fledged middleweights. And all those names you just mentioned there, I want to put in the middleweight division. Does Gennady Golovkin beat all those guys we just mentioned there? Lara?
I don't know. I think he could beat Edizani Lara. Because the thing with Edizani Lara is Edizani Lara footwork isn't what it used to be. He's lost a step. He's a little slow. And if Gennady Golovkin, like Edizani Lara got, you know, he got knocked down by Angulo.
Yeah.
And if Canelo catches Edizani Lara, the one thing we know is Gennady Golovkin catches Edizani Lara, then, you know, man, as hard as he punches, he might not knock him out, but he'll definitely knock him down a few times. And that'll make it even that much harder for Lara to have to fight his way back into the fight. Okay.
I've always thought that Andrade is the man to beat Gennady Golovkin.
Well, listen, you got Andrade. I'm gonna throw some names out who I feel that I'm not gonna necessarily say beat him, but will be a problem for him. Andrade would definitely be a problem for him. Andrade would be a problem for Edizani Lara. Okay, Andrade is a problem for anybody in that division. The boy is that smooth. I think J-Rock, because when you look at him from a mental standpoint, and again, I've seen J-Rock. We've talked to J-Rock's trainer. You watch J-Rock's fight. He's a Philadelphia fighter. From a mental standpoint, J-Rock you're not gonna outdog this dude. And the guy he's fighting, the Charlo brother he's fighting, is a big dude. He's 6'2". He's been having problems making 154-pound weight for a minute. So he's another big, mentally tough guy. So these, you know, there are those three dudes, in my opinion, could give Gennady Golovkin problems. I can't necessarily. The only person, and I will agree with you, that I think has a better chance on an athletic scale as well as a boxing scale, be able to beat Gennady Golovkin. I would agree that Andrade is the better of that, but I think Andrade has to be more active, and I would like to see him at least fight a middleweight before he just jumped to take Gennady Golovkin. Like fight Billy Joe Saunders, fight Curtis Stevens, fight, you know what I'm saying, Daniel Jacobs. Yeah. And if you look impressive against those guys, then you go to Gennady Golovkin.
What happens if Danny Jacobs lands on Gennady Golovkin?
That will be a very interesting question, because here's the thing, and I said this to people because I know that Daniel Jacobs got knocked down by, as 2K would like to call it, the hard-punching 26% knockout Sergio Mora. My man 2K the God always likes to point that out to me. But if you look at what Gennady Golovkin did when he fought another guy who was considered a puncher in David Lemieux, he didn't go Mexican style. He came out and he boxed because he knew David Lemieux is a hard puncher. If he tries to box with Daniel Jacobs, in my opinion, that's the advantage Daniel Jacobs. Daniel Jacobs has faster hands, and he's more athletic than Gennady Golovkin. What Golovkin's gonna have to do is what he did to Kell Brooks and just come out and try to jump on Daniel Jacobs. And you know, he's going to have to do what Pirov did to Daniel Jacobs. He's going to have to just come out and jump on him. Pirov jumped on Daniel Jacobs. That's what Gennady Golovkin's going to have. He's going to have to come out and jump on him. If he tries to box Daniel Jacobs, to me, that works in Jacobs' favor because Jacobs has faster hands and he's more athletic. So, I mean, that's my opinion. I could be wrong.
Okay, that's fair enough. Bo, Bland, thank you so much for being on Baylor Worldwide Television. Again, any final thoughts?
Let's not take away. Look, last week and this week, regardless of how you feel about what happened last week, you saw Andre Ward not check out mentally. Mentally, the man did not check out. It is not Andre Ward's fault. However, the referee saw the fight. You can't blame Andre Ward for what the refs saw the fight. And if Andre Ward wants to say he wasn't surprised, he's a fighter. He's supposed to say he wasn't surprised. He's supposed to maintain his confidence. So I'm not blaming him for whatever the refs did. But I just want to point out that let's stop taking away from a guy's victory just because of a decision we don't like or the way a fight ends. Let's stop doing that. Lomachenko deserves the respect and the glory that came with winning. Andre Ward deserves the respect and the glory that came with winning because, again, Andre Ward did not check out like he could have when he got knocked down. Lomachenko came into that ring and he did not check out. He was supremely confident throughout this whole fight. Both these dudes won, and let's give them the praise they deserve as being the winners. That's the way the sport can get better, is we have to stop allowing personal stuff or things we don't like or can't control take away from what the guy in the ring accomplished. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones going through 6, 7, 12-week training camps. They're the ones away from their families. They're the ones making the sacrifice to entertain us. And let's appreciate that.
One final thought. Andre Ward, the heavyweight?
Hell no. Hell no. Andre Ward should not go to heavy. Listen, I think 175 might be too much for him, to be honest with you. We saw a huge difference in size when he fought Kovalev. Kovalev just looked like the bigger man in that fight. He looked at the bigger man. Andre Ward's legs looked smaller than Kovalev. His frame, even though it's 175, looked smaller than Kovalev. So, no, I think 175 is probably his limit because, I mean, think about this. Before you go to heavyweight, you have to go to cruiserweight. And there's a cruiserweight up there right now, Golovkin, Huck, Usyk. You know, those are some cruiserweights right now that just, you know, they would be too big for Andre. So, before I leave, follow us later on today. We're going to be doing a podcast, The Movement, 724-444-7444. Me, my boys, Twan Lebedy, Jasper, 2K to God, and Bernard. We're all going to be on there. So follow us. We're going to be talking about a lot of hot topics.
Well, Bland, thank you so much for being on Baylor Worldwide Television. Your input is always fantastic, refreshing, and informative.
Man, I thank you, man. Thank you for everything you've been doing for this sport until I came along. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, champ. See you soon.
All right.